Sara Barnes is the founder of dog walking business Who Lets Your Dog Out, and she is the ultimate inspiration for anyone looking to pivot their career. Sara had a successful job as a management consultant, travelling the world, but felt unfulfilled and suffered from bouts of depression. So she decided to take a 6-month career break and spend her time walking dogs. She soon turned her passion into a profitable business. On this episode of Sound Advice Entrepreneurs Unfiltered, Sara shares how she ditched the desk job, put her mental health first, and built a thriving, fun-to-run business. Welcome, Sara.
Hi, thank you for having me on this podcast. It's really nice to be here.
Thanks so much for joining us. So you initially studied law at university and became a successful management consultant, but ended up suffering from stress and depression. Can you tell us a little bit about that experience and how you coped?
So looking back on it now, I probably started with a bit of stress and kind of depression much earlier than I really realised. So, I mean, I graduated, this sounds really old now, I graduated in 1999, so the last century. But actually, I probably had my first kind of initial hints about it in about 2002. So I didn't really know about it at the time, just kind of got on with it, did whatever. And it wasn't until I was out in Southeast Asia, as you say, being a management consultant, I ended up at some points doing, 80-hour weeks, which, if you're out there by yourself, it's not a problem. But I missed my family. I didn't really have friends because I never knew how long I was going to be somewhere. Could go there and be there 2 weeks. I could go there and be there 18 months. It really was just all up in the air, which, don't get me wrong, I was happy to do because I knew what I was signing up for. I just didn't really think it would have that kind of effect on me. So obviously when I started to get a bit down and depressed, I'd phone home, talk to my parents, or occasionally get hold of a friend, but there was an 8-hour time difference. So you don't want to phone your friends when it's their lunchtime, because if you're having a moan, it kind of puts them down, and you're like, I'd feel bad about trashing the rest of their day. So kind of got to a head when a few things went wrong in the office, and I was like, no, I've had enough, I'm going home. Came back, had a couple of jobs then in the UK because I thought, well, at least I'm nearer friends and family, I'll do that. And yeah, it was better, but it wasn't still right. And I got a trigger. We found that I'd got triggered into what was kind of my first proper bout of depression when I found out my dad was unwell. He got diagnosed with cancer. I think most people in today's society have experienced that. But we went through it. I put myself on meds just to kind of get myself balanced so that I could work through my days and not be sat there in a corner trying to teach someone how to transform their business, but be a blubbering wreck. So I did that, got through it, changed jobs, got nearer to home. Still wasn't really enjoying it. And just like you say, I thought, heck with this, I'm going to have a career break. I'd never had one. So in all my time since college, basically, I've never had that career break.
And how hard was it to quit your job and that comfortable salary? And who did you turn to for advice?
I was really lucky, and I have to say that wholeheartedly. I had savings in the bank. So I'd kind of gone, this isn't working. How much have I got in the bank? What could I do with that? I had my own home, and I live in my home by myself, so it's my responsibility for all the bills. And I'm really fortunate that my parents live quite literally half a mile away. So I sat down, I talked to my mum and my dad. They've always been there for me. And I said, I'm not happy. Dad said, yeah, I can see that. Subtle as a brick that he is. And I said, I've got to do something. I'm not well in myself. And he said, well, if you need it, we will support you to the point we will pay your mortgage for up to 6 months. So, that's a big weight lifted off my shoulders, because you think that's kind of the big bill that goes out every month. And at least I would then have a roof over my head to do whatever I wanted. I can say, hand on heart, I've never needed it. But having that safety net there was probably what enabled me to make that leap and go. I walked in, I'd handed my notice in to my boss. We had a big kind of team meeting, and they said, oh, Sara's got something to say. And I went, by the way, guys, I'm trading you lot in for dogs. And I got, oh, this kind of massive reaction of gasps of breath. And seriously now, I've decided, I need a break. I'm going to go walk dogs for the summer. What more can you dream of? It's sunshine, fresh air, out in the fields. And it's that idyllic image of running through the fields with the dogs and they're all behaving and it's all fabulous. And let's just say it didn't quite work out that way all the time, but it gives me stories to tell every day of something, makes people laugh. So that works for me.
So you initially had this kind of 6-month financial buffer. In terms of your next career, had you thought about what you were going to do? What was the plan B?
There was no plan B. This wasn't even plan A. This was literally, I'm going to take a break. I'm going to kind of reset myself, get things going, and then I'm going to go back to probably being a management consultant or a project management somewhere. I tried big companies, multinationals and all that. I tried that medium company, and I tried a small family-owned company, and I'd never felt I quite fitted in any of them. So I was like, so what do you do? And I was like, well, I'm not going to go freelance. I'm not going to set myself up as a consultant and project manager and go hunting for work. I didn't feel the passion there to do that. Whereas once I kind of got into the dog walking and the home boarding, as being the girl that always wanted a dog, and I haven't had one since, my early 20s, this worked out great. I've got the best of both worlds for me. I literally have dogs stay over in my house. Some of them sleep on my bed. Some of them sleep downstairs on the sofa. Literally just before we came on, I took a picture and I've got 3 dogs asleep on my sofa. And, I go out on a walk. But if I want a weekend off, as long as I plan it miles in advance, then I can have a weekend away with no dogs and just go from there.
And by quitting your corporate job and knowing that you had some space and freedom to explore what you wanted to do next, did that immediately change your mental health? Were you able to come off the meds?
It probably took me about 9 months because as well as the job thing, I did have my dad being unwell. So until we got the all clear from him, I kind of stayed on them because I wanted to make sure that I was balanced. Because again, once you decide that it's going to be this new career, and I did quite quickly on, when somebody turned around to me and said, you do home boarding? And I went, no. And she went, you really need to. And I went, well, why would I want to do that? I don't kind of want dogs in my house, was what I thought. And she went, I've turned down £600 worth of work this weekend. I was like, right, where do I sign on the line? Again, even for 6 months, I'll do that, 600 quid. And, I went from there. But I think really, I didn't know what was going to be next. And I just went with the flow. And I've always kind of had that mentality of, I'd rather regret something I did than something I didn't. Could explain why I have a very eclectic past. Between university and project management, there was a lot of other jobs in there. But I think all of them in their own way have helped me with where I am now. And the fact that, 6 months has turned into 5 years is kind of a testament to this is probably where I should be.
And at what point into the 6 months did you think, actually, this could be a legitimate business?
Probably it took about 3 or 4 months to kind of get to the point I was going, well, actually, I'm not making a huge amounts of money, don't get me wrong, but I'm covering my mortgage. My savings are not broke. I have still got a little bit in there. But again, it was, well, I'm really enjoying this. And if, people see it as a valued proposition, it's no good just having somebody that can only walk your dog on a Saturday or only walk your dog on a Tuesday afternoon because they're working around other jobs. If that dog needs to be walked on a Thursday evening, then 9 times out of 10 I can do it. I do have free food Thursday where I go up to my mum's for dinner, and that's my kind of, I can't have the laptop with me. I can take my phone, but nothing else. And that is, I take the dogs with me. But, we have that kind of an hour and a half on a Thursday evening. Mum cooks me dinner and I just get to relax and switch off a little bit from the business because I do pretty much everything for the business. So I am the business finance keeper, bookkeeper. I do all my accounting. I do my payroll. I do vehicle mechanic work because vehicles break down. And if not, then it goes off road for 2 or 3 days while it goes into a garage. So I'll jack of all trades. I'll turn my hand to most things. So that hour and a half a week is just kind of moment.
So, I mean, that's been a huge learning curve for you in many ways. What were some of the toughest moments of getting the business off the ground and building up the brand and getting new clients on board?
For me, it was really, I only knew of Facebook, let's be honest, or social media, as you want to say. Everyone goes, just create a page and everyone will flock to you. And it's so not that way, no matter how hard you try. So it was learning how to market the business was a big thing for me. It's not just, going around handing out a few flyers, which really does work, or just creating a Facebook page. It's getting your name out there. So in the summer when it was too hot for me to walk, because you do have days where it is too hot to take the dogs out, I would literally be putting flyers through every door on a housing estate. Since then, I've managed to get a regular slot on the local newspaper. So I write for them once a month, which I would say to anyone that's starting out, at least get a press release out there. And I know it sounds really old school. Yeah, get a press release, get a nice picture, put it in the paper. The worst they're going to do is not publish it. The best they're going to do is they'll publish it, they'll ask you for a comment on something, or, just do something. Stand out from the crowd. I've always worn branded t-shirts when I'm working, even from day one, which is a bit sad because most people are, but it's only you. You don't need to have a branded t-shirt. And you're like, but actually, that means the person sees me walking down the street and they go, she's a dog walker. They may not see me again for another 3 weeks and they go, oh, that's her again. So getting your name out there, marketing and advertising is the biggest thing, but it doesn't have to cost a fortune to do it.
What were some of the hacks that you discovered and money-saving techniques?
Is learn what you can put through your business as a business expense. It is really. I mean, yes, you say branded t-shirts. Yes, that's a business expense. But for a dog walker, I go through probably 2 pairs to 3 pairs of walking boots a year. They're all business expenses. Learn about what the warranties are on them, because again, most walking boots have a 1 to 2 year warranty period on them, so you get free exchange. Didn't say that. But also things like on the admin side of things is keeping good records. Really make sure you do keep on top of it. If you leave it for 3 months to then start filling in an Excel spreadsheet or going through and doing a bank rec, you're not going to remember anything. From day one, I said, right, this is my bank account, this is my personal account, and never the two shall cross. And really, I did keep it, even though it was a sole trader initially, did keep it as a separate entity as much as you can. So I would take drawings out of it, but I really started to live beneath my means, if that makes sense. So, if I could take £500 or £600 out a month out of the business, that's fine. But I need to make sure I still save part of that, because next month, or not now, but at that point, it might have been in 2 months' time, I might not be able to take £600 out of the business. I may only be able to take 300. If I still need 600, where's that other 300 coming from? So budgeting is really key. But, I like I said, for me, it's making sure you keep the two things as separate as possible, because that way you'll know how well your business is doing, even when you don't think it is. So the first time I hit £1,000 income in a month, I was like up cheering and everything else. I was applauding myself. But I never thought that 2 months ago I would hit a £7,000 month. I just never thought that was going to happen. So it's looking at now, I still don't take a huge amount more out of the business now that I'm earning £7,000, or the business is earning £7,000 a month, to when I was earning, £1,000 a month. I live very frugally. I put as much as I can through the business and learn to sew, because then you can repair things. It's daft, half my t-shirts, you get a dog's claw, just clip it and you go, there's a hole in the t-shirt.
Make do and mend.
Exactly. It's very old school, but it does work.
And were there any other business owners in the local area, or books that you read, or networks that you joined that helped you in that sort of first year?
So in the first year, I think looking back, I was really lucky. There was a bunch of local dog walkers and they all had a WhatsApp group. And I'd before I started, I went and I met a couple of them and said, can I follow you for a day? Or can I come out on a walk and pick your brains? I'm considering doing this. And they were really welcoming because they said, there is more dogs here than we can handle. So we had that as a kind of a get together, and people would have a little bit of a moan, or they'd say, I've just dropped this customer because of X, Y, Z. Watch out, they could be coming your way. Or, I've had this inquiry, I'm not sure. Or, oh my God, I've just had an amazing day. I've hit my £1,000 goal, or whatever it happened. So it was really good for kind of networking within dog walkers and learning stuff. I tried a couple of networking groups, and I think maybe I thought I was going to get more out of them, but I felt like everyone was trying to sell to me. But I did we had a women in business group, which was also interesting because I was I was one of the younger people and I wasn't that young. But, I met a lady who at the time was in a recruitment agency. She now runs a mobility scooter and, the chairs that move up. She now works there. And I'm like, oh, it's a bit different. But, she has a dog and I didn't realise she had a dog. And I hadn't seen her for 2 years. And then she said, oh, we're going away. The girls are going to be at the house. Can you walk the dog? So you make friendships and acquaintances with people, and you never even imagine half the time that they're actually going to come to fruition. So it's be polite, be generous. Books-wise, I did quite a bit of reading in my first year about just basic business admin. I mean, I did business and finance at college, but that, like I said, that was in the 90s. So, I had to kind of remind myself about basic bookkeeping, about what you can and can't do. Is it okay to go and put a flyer on a car in a car park? I don't think you can, but I never did because I wasn't sure. And I didn't want to get, I didn't want to get in the press for the bad reasons. But it was really, that was the only really book was just, like I say, on basic business principles so that I had an idea of where I could go with it.
And what do you think were the transferable skills that you took from your role as a management consultant that helped you as an entrepreneur?
Planning, to-do lists. I live by to-do lists even now. It just means I don't forget things. Organisation skills. My diary is fairly hectic. I have roughly 130 dogs that we kind of look after. Some we'll see every day, some we'll see once in a blue moon, but we just kind of go through the motions, and I have to be able to remember who's where and what, and who's got food allergies, who doesn't have food allergies. But yeah, to-do lists are a big thing for me. And as they grew the business, processes and procedures, and documenting what you do and how you do it so that you can clone yourself effectively, because it's too much for just me. Will the dogs like the other person? Will the customers like the other person I bring on board? And if not, how am I going to handle that? And how do I train someone when we're so busy already? Because I should have probably recruited earlier than I did. How am I going to train them and replicate myself and share what I know about these dogs in a way that they can take it in?
And just as the business really started to take off and thrive, the pandemic hit. How did you cope with that when you were only allowed out of the house for, I think it was an hour a day to exercise?
During the first 12 weeks of the pandemic, obviously we were all supposed to stay at home and not do anything. So I sat on my sofa and knitted dog scarves for Christmas presents.
Get ahead.
Blatantly the right thing to do in the early spring and summer. But the 1 hour a day, I said to all my customers, unless, you cannot deal with your dog because you're all at home as well, I'm not coming to see you. So I put my business on hold, which was really hard because, like you say, I was just kind of getting to that point you're really happy. So I had one customer who survived a week, and she said the dog's pulled me over 3 times this week. And he was a dog we walked every day. I've known him since he was 8 weeks old. And I see him pretty much every day. So my hours of exercise every day was taking that dog for a walk. And I would walk from my house to her house. She only lived half a mile away. Pick up the dog, walk him around the field for 45 minutes to an hour, drop him back at her house and walk back to my house. And that was my life outside of knitting scarves and bits and pieces like that.
But actually, you were helping her out. You were probably helping your own mental health, and you kept a client on board.
Exactly. He was my only income for the first bit of the pandemic. because I wasn't entitled to any of the grants or anything that was going around. So he was my income. He basically paid my mortgage. She was like, well, I'll just give you a load of money and you can then just walk it off over time. And I was like, no, I only want to get paid for what I do. And I had a couple of customers that were really generous that were saying, if you want us, we'll pay you £1,000 now. We'll give you £1,000 tomorrow and then we'll just draw it off as and when we need it. And I was like, thank you for the offer. It's really generous, but I don't want that. Because if I want to go away and they want the dog walking, well, they've already paid for it, haven't they? So you kind of go, no. So it was going back to living frugally, baked beans on toast and all those kind of things, and going from there. But it was an interesting experience. Not saying I'd like to go through it again. And as soon as we could open up, I was so much happier. It was lovely to see the dogs again. You miss them.
And you've seen huge growth since then. I know you've taken on staff, you've bought another van. But you mentioned you wish you'd recruited earlier. At what point should you have done it?
Looking back, and they do say hindsight is an amazing thing, I should have recruited Emma, she is now, my first employee. She's still with me, thankfully. Oh, I cry when she goes on holiday now. But oh no, I've got to go back. I probably should have recruited her when I hit about 75 to 80% capacity, because that would have given me and her the opportunity to do a lot more kind of initial training and learn a bit more, if that makes sense. So I knew what I wanted her to do, really easy, just go off and walk dogs. But you kind of forget that even for me, it took me a few months to learn the best way to walk, not just one dog or two dogs, but 4 or 6, because we have some groups where the dogs are all off lead, which is great because they're having a whale of a time. You've just got to be able to keep an eye on 6 dogs and make sure you know where they all are at one time, so your head's on a swivel. You start slowly, so you start, new staff members usually get 2 or 3 dogs, and usually one of them is one that has to go on lead, and then you build it up and you build it up. Unfortunately, with Emma, it was literally, you're coming on board. I've got to go away for a weekend in about 3 weeks' time. So you've got 3 weeks to learn. Congratulations. And she was like, oh my gosh. Really lucky. Emma has 2 dogs of her own. So it was a good starting point.
And how do you find employees with that right mindset and the right energy? You talked about recruiting and replicating yourself. How do you do that?
It's not as easy as you might think. Everyone goes, oh, everyone would love to do dog walking. You're like, yeah, they do, but not everyone's a good fit for my business. I don't do solo dog walks. That's kind of one of the things I really don't want to do. I've got a couple that I do because they're either dogs I can do at any time of day, or they're dogs that were in a group that have had a few growth issues. Generally, they've hit adolescence and gone, no, I'm the boss. And you go, no, you're not. I'm the boss. I'm the walker. So how did I recruit? So I was really lucky. My second employee was actually Emma's mum.
Keeping it in the family.
Exactly. So my mum is known to all my customers as Granny Barnes, and she will not come on the books as an employee. She's a volunteer. She will not. I keep asking. Emma came on, then Emma's mum came on. And then it was, I put job adverts out on Facebook. I put job adverts out on, jobs hunting sites and stuff. And that bit's easy. You get this wealth of people come and go, I want to walk dogs, I want to walk dogs. Yeah, you're like, are you going to be happy doing it in the middle of November when there's 6 dogs, they're all muddy and it's peeing down with rain? Because let's be honest, that's the worst kind of time of year. You're covered in mud, you're sliding everywhere. What are you going to do? So I thought I had a really good recruitment process. I did a CV check. I did a chat over the phone. My first kind of real face-to-face with them, I took them out on a group walk so they could experience what it was. So, if I've got a problem dog on a lead, I'm a bit evil. I give it to them for a few minutes while I unload the other dogs from the van just to see how they react to it. Because if it's a problem dog and they can just hold it and steady, that shows me that they've got a level of confidence and ability just to handle dogs. Because everyone thinks it's really easy. And to be honest, some of them really are, but others are really not.
And as the business has grown, you now have employees, you have the extra van, you have 130 dogs on your books. Has that changed the way you run the business?
So yes, I'm actually a lot stricter now with my customers. So originally I was like, if a customer asked me to do anything, I would pretty much always say yes. So again, going back to an earlier question, one of the things you need to learn to say is no, especially if it's not quite what you want to do. So I'm only allowed, when it comes to dogs in the house, I'm only allowed 4. So that's it. If I've got 4 dogs in the house, I can't take anyone else in, which really upsets some customers. They're like, but I need you, but I told you 6 months ago I was busy already now. So if you really want the dates, you need to book far in advance. You also need to pay a deposit now, which you didn't before. Especially before the pandemic, I really wasn't worried about them. But now everyone's wanting to go on holiday, and then people are dropping off because something's happened at work or what have you. And I'm like, oh, I've just lost 2 weeks worth of income. I try to take a bit more time for me because I am 7 days a week, pretty much 24/7. It's very rare I have a dog-free night. And if I do, I'm like usually sat on the sofa going, I could have a bath without having a snuffly noise at a door. So yes, I would spend all night sat in front of a laptop or on my phone working, given half a chance. So I have to kind of put limits. I have reminders that come up saying, stop playing on your phone, or stop working on your phone, or now is the time to do this. From that perspective, I've always been, having had a law degree, I've always had quite a comprehensive contract. And I know a lot of dog walkers don't. But I would say if you are in the business where you need any form of contract, make sure you've got one. I originally started with a timesheet for, staff and Emma to fill in, paper timesheet. I've now transitioned that over. We've got a HR app because that just makes my life easier so that I can just pull the report off the app on the last day of the month after everyone's gone home, and I can run payroll rather than spending 20 minutes or an hour or 2 hours chasing everyone going, you didn't give me your timesheet. I need your timesheet or I can't pay everyone. So there's lots more systems and processes in place now than there were, like, as the business has grown. So with me and Emma, it was really easy. We just have a conversation. Me and Emma's mum, it's still only 3 of us, just a conversation. But now there's me, Emma's mum, Lisa, Katie, and Julie, who that's the 5 walking team. Plus I have an admin lady. So it's not just one conversation now. It's a lot more. So it's just working out how to communicate. Because again, I've had to learn to communicate better with people because I think I've told somebody something. I always ask my customers to confirm anything they've said to me over the phone on a written message, either a text, a WhatsApp or an email, just so I've got it for future referral because I can't always remember everything. I'm not as perfect as I would like.
And you're right, from the outside, it probably looks like this dream, calming job, where you're outside with dogs and in nature. But in reality, it's really stressful. And you talked about, the sleepless nights and working weekends. Do you still worry about your mental health, and how do you prioritise that other than having Thursdays at your mum's?
So I've tried really hard in the last 18 months to 2 years to have one weekend or 1 2-day period away from the business every quarter. That's worked really well, except for this year. I haven't had one yet. Oops. But in my defense, I am going on my first holiday since starting the business at the beginning of June, so in a few weeks' time. And that will be, my that's going to be a scary moment for me because I'm letting go of my baby and letting it run with Emma and a few other people in charge. But really I took up running. So I started doing Couch to 5K with a bunch of ladies, which was great because it's not just a matter of going for a run. We would have a gossip and we'd put the worlds to right. And it was gaining that kind of network of friends that I would never have met otherwise. And that's 45 minutes a week. Customers are aware that Sara goes for a run at 6:30 and then she'll be back by 7:15. That's worked well for me. Taking me time is something I have always struggled with. So it's being aware of that and then really putting it in my diary as an appointment like I would any dog walk or trip to a physio or trip to the doctor or whatever. So it's planning it in and giving myself the time.
Yeah, you actually schedule it into your diary.
Yeah, I have things that I have reminders that come across that no borders or, no walking this day. For the business, I tried to give myself one admin day a week, especially now I've got the team. On the flip side, I give all the team at least a 3-day weekend pretty much every week. So the girls generally don't work Friday. So Friday, Saturday, Sunday is me in the business with all the dogs, my responsibility, unless I'm off teaching. So then one of the girls will come in and cover for the dogs for me.
What are your expansion plans for the business?
So as well as doing dog walking and home boarding, very early on I started teaching pet first aid. So I do that face-to-face because when I was looking to become qualified in pet first aid, which is a requirement for the business, it wasn't available. I couldn't get it locally. So I qualified in that. So that's one area that is growing. I'm probably going to expand where we can home board. So I'm going to license my mum's house so she can have house guests as a 4-legged variety as well. Haha, more money for me. And then I've actually just started late last year a second business.
Tell us more.
So I'm not busy enough. Don't laugh. It's called We Do Doggy Doo Doo. And basically we are scooping poop out of people's gardens and parish council poo bins and churchyards and things like that, where some unscrupulous people don't necessarily pick up, and where there is a community or someone that is prepared to support us, and we will go in and we'll do it for them, obviously for a fee. It's not a huge fee, to be honest, but it works. And that one is interesting for me because it's such a unusual business proposition that most people go, people don't pick up in their own garden. And they do pull that funny face, and well, not everyone can. You've got older people. One of my staff had to have knee replacement surgery. So if she hadn't had a husband who was prepared to pick up, nobody had been picking up after the dog because she couldn't bend down to do it. You've got older people that, their dog is their true life companion, but they have age-related ailments, which means they can no longer pick it up. So again, from my perspective, I'm therefore helping them to be able to keep their pet, which is their companion. So that it gives me that warm, fuzzy feeling, if that makes sense, when I'm picking up poop. So, but, it's a natural extension for me because we spend all day picking it up anyway.
Yeah, I love how you're diversifying the business.
It's different. What's the worst that could happen, really, is that it doesn't take off. I mean, I invested an initial amount in it and I've not gone over that. It's self-funding itself now. After this one is kind of a bit more established, I'm forever on the hunt for a plot of land because I'd like a secure dog walking field. So people that have got reactive dogs or nervous dogs or dogs that can't be let off lead in public, they've got somewhere they can take their dog where they will have sole use of it and they can then run wild and burn off the energy that they need. If I ever win the lottery, I have a huge expansion plan, but we'll have to wait for win the lottery on that one.
So you now spend your days picking up dog poo, walking dogs, home boarding and running your business. Is there anything you miss about the corporate life?
Probably the interaction with different people. So most of the people I see on a daily basis have 4 legs. They're not really people, they're dogs. I can walk down a street and I can spot a dog that I know, but I couldn't tell you if it was the owner that was walking it sometimes or one of the kids or a family member. So I don't, other than the initial time when I meet them, it's very rare that I actually see the family. I just see the dog. So sometimes I think, that human interaction I miss a bit, but I've identified that as a problem. So I am trying to put myself out there, a bit like with the running group, contacting friends that I've had from almost past lives is the best description, and trying to stay in touch with them, be it over a phone call once a month, or I've got a friend who's had to move out to America for work. So we try to make FaceTime or something once a month just so we can say, hi, how are you? Because it's quite isolating for her. So, I've identified that and thought, well, is it isolating? We've had a chat, said yes, so we scheduled that in. Helps her and it helps me because it's somebody who knows what I do and knows about my past, and we can talk about anything and everything.
Yeah. I think you're so right, because no matter what business you're running, it can be really lonely as an entrepreneur. So it's so important for your mental health that you're prioritizing those human interactions as well.
Definitely.
So what would be your tips for a successful career pivot? If anyone listening to this show is thinking about doing it, what's your advice?
I would definitely say have a plan. Make sure you've got some money behind you. It's no good going, I'm going to have a career pivot just because, I hate my job and I've got no money. I've said it to people who are starting up businesses or people who don't know what they want to do. Take a job that you really don't like. If you have to, do it for 6 months and bank as much as you can with a goal that, I'm doing this for 6 months so that, for example, I can afford driving lessons or I can start a new business. So get the money behind you. It doesn't have to be the biggest amount. Do your research. So, like I said, I went and spent time with dog walkers. I found out about home boarding. Set yourself a plan, set yourself a goal. And then, once you're ready, just go for it and go hell bent for leather. I mean, I quit my corporate job. I had a pub job on the side initially because I was like, I'm too scared to have no income. But that died a death really quickly because I got busy with dog walking. And then you just kind of wholeheartedly commit to it, but be prepared to change the plan. So I had no intention initially of home boarding, but that's nearly 50% of my income now. I never thought about having dogs stay in my house, especially curled up on my bed. But they're all currently downstairs on the sofa. I can pretty much guarantee it now. And it does, you get really house proud when you get your first home. You're like, oh, it's all pretty. And now I'm just like, oh, it's gone out the window. I'll clean the house. That's not a problem. But, and the other thing I would say is once you've done that pivot, don't be scared to ask for help. I really didn't. And I really kind of refrained from asking people, not just their advice, but also getting the right people on board. So daft as it sounds, getting a cleaner in for me is a big deal. They need to be able to like dogs. If they don't, they're not going to enjoy cleaning my house. But I really didn't want to give up that level of control. So if you're a bit of a control freak like I am, accept that you're going to have to release some element of control at some point. But really, get the money behind you, do your research, and then jump in wholeheartedly.
Just go for it.
Yeah, definitely.
Brilliant. Thank you so much, Sara. What a transformation. Thank you for sharing your story with us.
Thank you.
You can find out more about Sara's business at wholetsyourdogoutuk.com. I hope you've enjoyed this episode. Tune in soon for more Entrepreneurs Unfiltered.